If everything in your body changed after menopause, your mood, your stress tolerance, your sleep, your weight, and someone said to you, this is just a part of aging, stay with me because what happened is not random. Menopause did not break your body. What it did was remove the something that was holding your body together. And when that changed, your body started to feel off. This is where I hear women say things to me like, I'm eating less, but I'm still gaining weight. I never used to be anxious, but now I feel like I'm anxious all the time. My body feels so unfamiliar. Those symptoms did not appear from nowhere. They were lying in there waiting, like little sneaky sneaks to crawl up on you. And let's go into why. Let me explain it this way. Imagine that your body is a house, and for 30 to 40 years, that house had insulation. You didn't see it. You never really thought about it, but it was there and it kept the temperature in your home very stable. Estrogen is that insulation. When menopause happened, that insulation started to get very thin. The house didn't break down, but what ended up happening was every creak and crevice suddenly became very noticeable because your insulation thinned. The wind didn't get stronger, your protection was lost. And now every directional change of the wind makes you feel like you're a mess. And the truth is, you're not. That first draft that you feel is actually stress. And the crazy thing is, it's the same life stress. Your life didn't really change because you hit menopause, but the stress is just hitting you very differently. Your brain has a command center called the hypothalamus. Imagine that this is like your alarm system and your thermostat. Okay, alarm and thermostat. Estrogen actually helps to calibrate that alarm system so it doesn't go off every 5 seconds. Have you ever had a smoke detector that does that? Estrogen is the thing that actually keeps your alarm and smoke detector calibrated. After menopause, the zone that your body deems safe becomes very narrow. So before menopause, you had a very wide range where your body could like deal with stress. After menopause, that range gets really small. Okay. This is the number one reason that women have so many hot flashes. It's called a thermoneutral zone, where your body literally is neutral, no matter if you're fluctuating in this zone. Okay. So, for argument's sake, let's say it's 96 degrees to 100 degrees. Anywhere in this zone, your body would feel normal. However, when it narrows because you've lost estrogen, this zone gets really, really narrow. So let's say now you went from 96 to 100 to just 1 degree of change. So if your body gets too cold, you're going to heat up. If your body gets too hot, you're actually going to heat up. And that's what continuously triggers hot flashes. Similarly, everything else also starts to feel like an emergency because your zone of neutrality is now very narrow. So your body will feel like it's an emergency state for very tiny things like you didn't sleep well last night, or you had a meal that was too carby or too fatty, or you got into an argument. Everything is going to trigger your emergency response when your zone is too narrow. And when stress gets louder, there's another shift that happens as well. Estrogen helps to support serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. Serotonin and dopamine act like brakes for your nervous system. It says, chill, this is not an emergency. When you lose estrogen, you actually lose the ability to regulate serotonin and GABA, which means there's no brake on your nervous system. And your nervous system has two sides, fight or flight or rest and digest. Guess which side requires the brakes? The rest and digest. If there's no brake system, your body is constantly in fight or flight. This is when we start to hear things like, I'm wired but tired. I don't sleep well, even though I'm tired throughout the day. I am super irritated for no reason. I am unmotivated, even though I have this long list of things I have to do. I know it's really easy to say that this is like psychological, but the truth is, this is chemical and it's happening deep down inside of you. There's no amount of discipline that's going to change that chemical imbalance. When your emotional brakes aren't strong, of course you feel like everything is off. The next thing that takes a hit in this estrogen loss situation is your actual metabolism. Why? Because estrogen used to buffer your stress hormones. I'm going to put them over here. Okay. But stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, estrogen tells your hypothalamus, chill out. We don't need all this. Okay. I don't need that to survive right now. So when you lose estrogen, that buffer that keeps cortisol in check is suddenly gone. And cortisol really only has one priority: survive. When your body's primary goal is survival, it really doesn't care how you look. It doesn't care how you feel. All that matters is that you survive this moment right now. And that signal can cause a lot of chaos. How does that affect your metabolism? Well, here's how this works. The adrenals are directly tied to your thyroid. Okay. In fact, we have this system called the HPAT axis. And there's a lot of schools in the holistic world that believe that this system is the system that runs everything in our lives. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think there's a lot of, like little things that we need to add to that. But for the most part, yeah, that's pretty true. And here's how this affects your metabolism. If your cortisol is high, your thyroid hormones have no choice. They have to lower. Okay. Because your adrenals and your thyroid work hand in hand and they balance each other out. If one goes up, the other comes down, and vice versa. So the signal for your thyroid to actually increase metabolism and actually burn the calories that you're eating gets lower. And then your thyroid actually produces this hormone called reverse T3. What is reverse T3? Reverse T3, if serotonin and GABA are the brakes on your nervous system, reverse T3 is the brakes on your metabolism. Okay. Reverse T3 tells your body, slow down. We need to conserve. We cannot burn all these calories. We need to store them. So your metabolic function actually starts to dip. So now you're in a situation where you're eating a lot less, but you're still gaining weight. Or worse, the scale won't move, which is actually pretty frustrating. This is not because you failed. This is because your body thinks that you're under threat. And when the body feels like it's under threat, it will store. This is why in this situation, weight gain feels super stubborn. The things that you used to do to lose 5 or 10 pounds don't work anymore. This is why it also feels very sudden and why it's all in your gut. We only have one place to store, right here in the midsection. And this is also why it feels super unfair. Because why am I all of a sudden developing a tire around my midsection? This sucks. It's very unfair. But this is the reason that this is happening to you. And honestly, if this wasn't enough, another thing happens on top of that. And this part feels extremely unfair. All of a sudden, your food starts to feel different. Imagine that your gut is a brick wall, okay? And in between these bricks, you have mortar. And that mortar keeps the brick wall super intact. Nothing is getting through that. The mortar is actually estrogen. When estrogen declines, that mortar starts to get really weak. Inflammation starts to increase. And the proteins that actually keep these tight junctions, they're called, together actually start to decrease production. So your brick wall ends up losing some bricks and tearing holes in them. And now things that were never supposed to get through the brick wall are suddenly getting through. This is why after menopause, a lot of the things you ate your whole life suddenly feel like you're eating inflammation. They suddenly make you feel super bloated. They suddenly make you feel super tired because all these proteins are running around in your bloodstream that shouldn't be there. And that all happened because you lost enough estrogen to hold that brick wall together. It's not because the food is suddenly more evil. It's because your insulation thinned and your barrier got way more sensitive. So yeah, everything feels off. And really, when this starts to happen, most women do something very logical. They try harder. Here's the thing. Most of the time, trying harder means eating less, working out more, and pushing through fatigue. But if your stress hormones are already really high, adding more stress to the situation is not helpful. If anything, it will increase more cortisol. It will increase reverse T3. More stress doesn't solve the problem. It actually confirms danger to your body. That's why overtraining increases cortisol. Under eating increases reverse T3. We need to conserve. So guess what? The 200 calories of grass that you ate today, it's all going into storage. Sleep deprivation actually worsens insulin signaling. This is where frustration starts to explode because you're doing all the right things and you're not getting any of the results that you should. And where does that lead you? It leads you to feeling worse. Menopause did not create this chaos. It exposed where you had weak conditioning to begin with. Most likely, this situation has been setting itself up for 20 to 30 years before you hit menopause. Usually, that situation is led by stress. If you live in this century, women are very stressed out. It's just like removing the insulation from your house. The house itself did not break. The house's ability to protect itself diminished. And in that state, everything feels louder. Everything feels broken. Everything feels like a mess, but you're not broken. You're just exposed. And guess what? We can absolutely re-insulate you. One of the wonderful and amazing things about the human body is that it wants to heal. It wants to be healthy. You just have to put the right things in place for it to do its job. In this hormonal chaos, you actually need to support every single area that is being hit, and you need to do it all at once. Okay. You have to support your nervous system, meditation, adaptogenic herbs. All of these things help your nervous system. B vitamins. Most women are deficient in B1, B2, and B6. Those are the 3B nutrients that you need to have a super healthy functional nervous system. It's estimated that like 90% of women are deficient. So if you go into menopause already 90% deficient in the nutrients that you need to regulate nervous system function, what do we think is going to happen in that situation? Of course, you're going to feel off. Okay, so you have to support your nervous system. You have to support your stress. Get very real about the stress that you're under. Sometimes we look at other people and we're like, oh my God, their life sucks. My life is great compared to that. And that might be true in that particular situation, but it doesn't mean that your life is without stress. So we have to get really honest about our stress and do appropriate things to manage that stress. Make sure you're in bed on time. Make sure you don't have a phone in your face when you're ready to go to sleep. I actually do a digital detox before bed. 30 minutes before I'm ready to sleep, everything comes off. Try meditation. Try deep breathing. 6 minutes of deep breathing is clinically proven to lower your cortisol by up to 50% in 6 weeks. All you have to do is breathe. Okay. Support your nervous system, support your adrenal glands, support your thyroid. If you want to increase thyroid production, you need selenium. One super easy way that you can support your thyroid is eat just 2 Brazil nuts every single day. 2 Brazil nuts have 110% of the selenium that you need for healthy thyroid function. It's actually a little crazy. If you do that for 6 weeks, you will see that your metabolism is running better. You're not as tired. You have more energy, especially throughout the afternoon, and your hair will stop thinning and being as brittle because your thyroid is working well. If you do those 3 things and you do them consistently for 3 weeks, you will start to see that your menopause symptoms are lessening in their intensity. And if you go for a walk and you get on the scale the next day, your weight probably won't be super high up. You might be starting to stay the same. Like you'll see new lows every week. Okay. It might not be like a 10-pound drop every week, but if every week you're losing 1 pound, that's a lot, especially if all you did was add some B nutrients and took a deep breath before you went to sleep at night. Okay. Try it out. Support your body. If this video helped make sense of what you're experiencing, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, give this video a share with somebody who's suffering too, because you know what? There's a lot of women out there who need help. There's a lot of women who don't understand what's going on in their body. And this channel is completely dedicated to explaining what the H is happening in the female body. So like, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next one.